The Nigerian police have invited the Senate president over allegations that have been mounted against him with regards to the April 5th Offa robbery. The police have invited him, and we know that in this attack there were several millions of naira stolen and several people killed. The alleged gang leaders include Ayoade Akini Bosun, 37, Ibikunle Ogunleye, 36, Adiola Ibrahim, 35, Salawuddin Aziz, 49, Niyi Ogundiran, 37, and 17 suspects arrested for direct involvement and active participation in the heist, in which 9 policemen and 33 persons, including some pregnant women, were killed. Now, the voice recordings that have been going over, some seeming confessions by the gang leader, and I listened to this yesterday and I really got chills over, like I had chills run down my spine. It was sad to see that there's some young people and that the confession, the acclaimed confession, stated about how they're political thugs. However, these political thugs now decided to veer off into armed robbery. And when asked why they did this, they said it was the work of the devil. Of course, we blame the devil over a lot of things that he had no hand directly involved in. But what do we make of this, really?
You see, the truth is, as Nigerians first, we must divorce our emotions from such issues. Because whether you like it or not, we tend to attach a lot of ethnic, religious, and political sentiments when we look at such stories. It's important that we also point out that a lot of young people have been led astray by people who take advantage of them and exploit them for their own interest. This is a typical example of this. Well, from the outside, we can just discuss and say, let the Nigeria police force get to the root of this matter, irrespective of any position that, you know, the culprits occupy. They should be brought to book. But then, it will be very hard for you to separate, you know, whatever bias you have against the Nigeria police force, or whatever bias you have against the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, or the governor of Kwara State from this particular incident. Yeah. And I must also point out here that as Nigerians, it's important that we put our own interest, or we must be selfish with our interest. Why should we be selfish with our interest? We must be selfish with our interest because if we look at those in positions of authority, these people benefit a lot from government or from the democracy that we enjoy.
Now that you've said it, I'll just quickly read something that was stated as part of the confessions I had made. You know, you mentioned that they benefited from the government at hand, and really, they mentioned that they have. It was said that the 5 gang leaders further confessed during investigation that they are political thugs under the name Youth Liberation Movement, aka Good Boys, and confessed to have been sponsored with firearms, money, and operational vehicles by the Senate President Bukola Saraki and the governor of Kwara State, Alhaji Abdul Fattah Ahmed. Meanwhile, the Senate President is being invited by the Nigerian Police Force to report to the Force Intelligence Response Team office at Guzape, Abuja, to answer to the allegations leveled against him from the confessions of the gang leaders. Now, if some of the confession as well, the man had even made mention of the fact that they asked him how he got the firearms, and he said firearms were given to him by a dismissed police officer who was like someone who was once with the police, and that usually what they do, they asked him, what is your function as a political thug? He said, you know, we go there, we help to cause chaos where we scatter the election, and I was just like, wow.
I mean, it's the truth.
Although he said that Bukola Saraki had no knowledge of the robbery.
It's for the Nigerian police force to get to the root of the matter and resolve these issues. But when we look at the intricacies, it's really very, very important that we point out here that there are young people who have been exploited, and people take advantage of the gullibility of young people. And there's really no excuse. There's no ignorance. When you come and say, I did not know.
It was the work of the devil.
The devil is not the work of any devil. The devil is in his kingdom. You understand? We're already waging the war against the devil. You just decided to be a tool used by the devil. So it's really important that parents must do all that they can to see that, you know, they try to let their children know what is different between good and bad. Very important from a very tender age. And number 2, it's not as if parents don't try their best to see that they impart knowledge. It's also a matter of choice. When the child grows up and there's peer pressure, or the child just decides to be a black sheep, then you cannot hold the parents responsible.
I'm glad that you mentioned that as well, because today we're going to be looking at parenting in the 21st century, and we have a guest who will be joining us to look at this. So it's very important that parents understand their roles. Some of them have really tried, but the children just decide to be a black sheep.
I don't think there's any parent that will come and say, this is wrong. going this way. This is what I want to teach you to.
Let's just be very honest. There are some parents that don't even know their own right from wrong. So when you don't know, how can you give what you do not have? So there are some parents that would deliberately lead their children astray because they themselves don't even know better. So let's even leave the argument for another.
No, but what I'm saying is, do you think that there's any parent that will get a gun and give the child and say, this is a gun, go and steal, go and rob? That's what I'm saying. It's not about not knowing your left from right. If the parent feels that, if the parent, for example, does not go about their business with respect, then the child picks that. That's different from saying, this is a way that is bad. I want to teach you. I mean, we have people who exploit the children of the average Nigerian, give them guns and make them political talks. But they send their own children to the best schools.
It falls down to morality and it falls down to ethics.
But still parents. I still hold this argument that there are still bad parents who intentionally lead their children astray. We know that. I've heard the story of a woman who was pimping out her daughter. There are still mothers who allow their husbands or their husbands sleep with their daughters. So they'll still try to cover it and keep it within the family. So there are still bad parents. I still want to believe that there are some parents who will deliberately lead their children astray.
Of course, that was the first point I made. Parents must do well. Then number two, it is not as if parents do not do well. There are certain children who just decide they want to be black sheep.
Yeah.
It's important that you live and be responsible for your actions. That's why when you get to a certain age in Nigeria, I mean, you can be tried to court for your actions and you're responsible and you live with the consequences.
Absolutely.
That's basically what it is.
Accountability and responsibility. Chukwudi, thank you for this update. Of course, as usual, we get the very best updates here on Hello Nigeria.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love her.